The weight that crushed the crew, she carried alone. For 17 grueling weeks, the Marine Corps recruits at Paris Island had treated Private First Class Maria Titan Vasquez like another undersized candidate who had somehow slipped through recruitment standards. Her 5 feet 2 inches frame struggling with physical training that separated future Marines from those who would return home with stories about attempting military service without possessing the strength and determination required for America's most demanding combat force. They watched her struggle during obstacle courses and assumed she lacked the raw power necessary for infantry operations, witnessed her fall behind during forced marches and mistook endurance limitations for mental weakness, observed her difficulty with equipment loads, and concluded she didn't possess the physical capabilities required for combat zones where Marine effectiveness meant survival for entire units under enemy fire. What they couldn't see beneath her sweat-soaked uniform and exhausted expression was a mind that had already conquered challenges that would have broken most people before they ever considered military service, hands that had worked construction sites since age 14 to support her family after her father's death, and a heart that carried the weight of 6 younger siblings who depended on her Marine Corps salary to escape the cycle of poverty that had trapped 3 generations of her family. Vasquez had enlisted in the Marines not to prove points about female capabilities or challenge gender assumptions, but because her family needed the financial stability and educational benefits that military service provided, and because her father's dying words had challenged her to become strong enough to protect others the way he had protected their family through 20 years of backbreaking manual labor and unwavering dedication to their welfare. Welcome to Silent Salute, where we reveal that true strength emerges not from physical advantages, but from refusing to surrender when surrender seems like the only rational choice. Before we share this incredible story of determination that redefined what it means to carry impossible weight, tell us in the comments about a time when someone's quiet persistence inspired you to push beyond what you thought was possible. And if you believe that real Marines are forged through adversity rather than advantages, hit that subscribe button to support our mission of honoring those who prove that warrior spirit has no size limit or gender restriction. Marine Corps Recruit Depot Paris Island operated as the crucible where ordinary citizens were transformed into Marines through systematic destruction of civilian comfort zones, elimination of individual limitations, and reconstruction of character that would enable service in combat environments where Marine Corps excellence meant the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure that endangered American lives. Staff Sergeant Marcus Iron Rodriguez had supervised recruit training for 8 years, watching thousands of young Americans discover their breaking points, while learning that Marine Corps standards couldn't be lowered to accommodate individual limitations or physical disadvantages that would compromise unit effectiveness during combat operations behind enemy lines. Vasquez, you've been struggling with physical training since arrival, and we're only halfway through recruit training. Your performance indicates you lack the strength requirements for Marine Corps infantry operations, and your recovery time suggests you won't survive the remaining training phases that eliminate weaker candidates who can't meet our standards. Vasquez continued preparing her equipment with mechanical precision learned from construction work where attention to detail prevented workplace accidents and ensured project completion, understanding that military success required the same methodical approach to preparation that had kept her employed while supporting her family through economic hardships and personal tragedies. Staff Sergeant, physical conditioning improves through consistent training and tactical adaptation to overcome obstacles that initially seem impossible. My body might need more development, but my commitment to completing Marine Corps training exceeds any temporary limitations that can be addressed through persistence and dedication to improvement. Lance Corporal David Bulldozer Washington, whose massive frame and powerlifting background made him the obvious standout among recruits who competed for instructor recognition and leadership opportunities, couldn't understand why Vasquez continued subjecting herself to public failure when her obvious physical disadvantages made Marine Corps success virtually impossible to achieve. Vasquez, I respect your determination, but Marine Corps training isn't about inspiration or heart. It's about raw capability under combat conditions, and you're holding back our platoon with your struggles during physical training that requires absolute strength and endurance that you simply don't possess. Vasquez's response reflected understanding gained through years of supporting her family when adults twice her size had given up on responsibilities that she couldn't abandon, knowing that Marine Corps service required the same refusal to quit that had enabled her to work construction jobs while maintaining honor roll grades and caring for siblings who depended on her strength. Washington, successful Marines require diverse capabilities that complement physical strength with tactical intelligence and unwavering determination. While you bring raw power to our platoon, I bring work ethic and problem-solving experience that could prove valuable during operations where strength alone won't accomplish mission objectives and ensure unit survival. The psychological pressure intensified when drill instructors began using Vasquez as example of misplaced ambition, publicly questioning her motivations while suggesting that her continued presence endangered other recruits who might fail trying to help someone clearly unsuited for Marine Corps service and combat operations that required peak physical performance from every unit member. Drill Instructor Sergeant First Class James Hammer Wilson, whose reputation for identifying and eliminating unsuitable candidates was legendary throughout Marine Corps Recruit Training Command, decided that public demonstration of Vasquez's limitations might teach her realistic self-assessment while showing other recruits the consequences of overestimating their capabilities and military potential. Vasquez, your performance during physical training demonstrates that you lack the strength necessary for Marine Corps operations. Your continued participation in recruit training compromises platoon performance and wastes training resources that should be invested in candidates with realistic potential for success in combat environments where weakness means death. Vasquez absorbed the criticism while maintaining focus on immediate objectives, understanding that survival required channeling energy toward mission completion rather than defending capabilities that would be demonstrated through performance rather than arguments with instructors whose responsibility was testing psychological resilience under hostile pressure and extreme adversity. The breaking point arrived during Week 12 of recruit training, when the log carry evolution required platoons to transport telephone pole-sized logs across obstacle courses, while instructors applied maximum psychological pressure designed to identify candidates whose mental toughness could withstand combat leadership challenges and operational stress under battlefield conditions. The evolution began with 47 recruits organized into crews of 8, each responsible for carrying logs weighing 180 pounds across terrain that included sand pits, water obstacles, and climbing walls that tested coordination, strength, and teamwork under conditions that simulated combat stress and operational challenges faced by Marine infantry units during deployment. Vasquez's crew struggled immediately, her limited upper body strength creating imbalance that affected team performance, while other crews established rhythm that enabled steady progress across obstacles that required synchronized effort and coordinated lifting techniques that maximized efficiency while minimizing individual strain on crew members. Vasquez is dragging us down again. We can't maintain pace when one person can't handle their share of the weight. This isn't fair to the rest of us who are trying to meet Marine Corps standards and complete training successfully. The complaints from her crew members reflected frustration that had been building throughout recruit training as Vasquez's physical limitations created challenges for team exercises that required equal contribution from every participant, while her determination to continue seemed selfish when measured against impact on others' training success and graduation prospects. Recruit Michael Tank Adams, whose athletic background and competitive drive made him natural leader among candidates seeking recognition for superior performance, voiced concerns that other crew members shared about Vasquez's impact on their collective success and individual advancement opportunities within the platoon hierarchy. Staff Sergeant, we respectfully request crew reassignment. Vasquez's physical limitations prevent our crew from competing effectively with other teams, and our performance evaluations are being compromised by factors beyond our control. We need crew members who can contribute equally to mission success. The request triggered immediate response from Drill Instructor Wilson, who recognized opportunity to demonstrate consequences of individual weakness on team effectiveness, while teaching broader lessons about Marine Corps standards and the necessity of eliminating candidates who couldn't meet requirements that would be even more demanding during actual combat operations. Outstanding request, Adams. This demonstrates exactly why Marine Corps standards exist and why we can't lower requirements to accommodate individual limitations. Vasquez, you will complete the log carry evolution alone to prove you possess the strength necessary for Marine Corps service, or you will be processed for elimination from recruit training. The challenge created conditions that would either prove Vasquez's suitability for continued training or provide definitive evidence that her physical limitations made Marine Corps service impossible, while establishing clear demonstration for other recruits about consequences of failing to meet standards that couldn't be compromised for diversity goals or individual circumstances. Vasquez approached the 180-pound log with understanding that this moment would determine her military future and her family's financial security, knowing that failure meant returning home without the Marine Corps benefits that her siblings needed for educational opportunities and medical care that weren't available through other employment or civilian assistance programs. The first attempt ended in immediate failure, as Vasquez couldn't generate sufficient leverage to lift the log from ground level. Her limited upper body strength inadequate for deadlift that required explosive power and sustained effort that exceeded her current physical capabilities and training development. Pathetic. Vasquez can't even lift the log, much less carry it across the obstacle course. This demonstrates exactly why physical standards exist and why Marine Corps training can't be modified to accommodate candidates who lack basic strength requirements for military service. The mockery from other recruits reflected relief that their own struggles seemed insignificant compared to Vasquez's obvious failure, while instructors used her inability to lift the log as teaching moment about realistic assessment of capabilities versus ambitious delusions that endangered unit effectiveness and mission success in combat environments. Recruit First Class Lisa Crusher Martinez, whose own training had been progressing smoothly compared to Vasquez's continuous struggles, felt justified in voicing opinions that other recruits shared about physical standards and the necessity of eliminating candidates who couldn't meet minimum requirements for Marine Corps service and combat readiness. Finally, everyone can see what we've been dealing with for 12 weeks. Vasquez has been holding back our entire platoon with her physical limitations. Maybe now she'll realize that Marine Corps service requires capabilities she simply doesn't possess, and she can pursue civilian career that matches her actual abilities. The second attempt produced slightly better results, as Vasquez managed to raise one end of the log before losing grip and dropping it back to the ground, her hands cramping from sustained effort, while her back muscles strained under weight that exceeded her lifting capacity and current strength development. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez observed Vasquez's attempts with professional assessment of technique and effort, noting that her approach demonstrated proper form despite insufficient strength, while her persistence suggested psychological resilience that might compensate for physical limitations if she could develop sufficient power through continued training and dedication. Vasquez, your technique is correct, but your strength is insufficient for this evolution. You have 2 more attempts to demonstrate capability, or you will be recommended for elimination from recruit training based on inability to meet physical standards that are essential for Marine Corps service and combat effectiveness. The third attempt began with Vasquez taking deeper breath and repositioning herself for maximum mechanical advantage, drawing on construction experience where leverage and technique had enabled her to move materials that exceeded her apparent lifting capacity through proper body positioning and efficient force application. She managed to deadlift the log to waist height before her grip failed again, the weight crashing back to earth while other recruits watched with mixture of sympathy and impatience for resolution that would either prove her capability or confirm their assessments of her unsuitability for continued training and Marine Corps service. 2 failures, Vasquez. 1 more attempt, and then we process elimination paperwork that returns you to civilian life. This evolution has demonstrated that physical standards exist for valid reasons, and Marine Corps training cannot be modified to accommodate individual limitations that would compromise unit effectiveness in combat. The final attempt would determine not just Vasquez's military future, but establish precedent for other recruits about persistence versus realistic acceptance of limitations, while providing definitive answer about whether determination could overcome physical disadvantages that seemed insurmountable when measured against Marine Corps standards and combat requirements. Vasquez approached the log with understanding that this represented final opportunity to honor her father's memory and secure her family's future, knowing that failure meant accepting defeat that would confirm everyone's assumptions about her limitations while abandoning siblings who depended on her success for their educational opportunities and escape from generational poverty. The silence that settled over the training area reflected recognition that this moment transcended routine training evolution, becoming test of character and determination that would be remembered long after recruit training ended, regardless of outcome that would either inspire or disappoint observers who had invested emotional energy in watching struggle between ambition and apparent capability. Vasquez positioned herself with legs wide for maximum stability, back straight to prevent injury, hands positioned for optimal grip, and mind focused on construction sites where she had lifted materials that supervisors assumed required multiple workers, proving that technique and determination could multiply apparent strength when applied with intelligence and persistence. The lift began slowly, with Vasquez engaging core muscles and leg drive to generate initial momentum, her construction experience providing body mechanics knowledge that enabled efficient force transfer from legs through torso to arms, maximizing power output, while minimizing energy waste that had characterized her previous attempts. The log rose steadily to waist height, then chest level, as Vasquez maintained controlled breathing and proper form, while fighting through muscle fatigue and grip limitations that had ended her previous attempts. Her determination fueled by memories of her father's advice about never quitting when others depended on your success. "She's actually lifting it," someone whispered, the observation breaking silence that had settled over recruits and instructors who were witnessing demonstration of persistence overcoming apparent physical limitations through proper technique, mental determination, and tactical approach to challenge that had seemed impossible when attempted through brute force. The log reached shoulder height as Vasquez transitioned to carrying position, securing the weight against her body with technique learned from construction work, where transportation of heavy materials required endurance and balance rather than explosive strength, enabling sustained effort across distances that exceeded lifting capacity. Her first steps were tentative, as she adjusted to weight distribution and balance requirements while maintaining controlled breathing that would enable completion of obstacle course that stretched across 200 meters of challenging terrain designed to test strength, coordination, and psychological resilience under conditions that simulated combat stress and operational demands. The sand pit required careful foot placement to prevent stumbling while maintaining log position, Vasquez's construction experience providing knowledge of working on unstable surfaces while carrying heavy loads, enabling steady progress while other recruits watched with growing respect for determination that had overcome their skepticism and mockery. "Unbelievable. She's actually carrying it alone," Recruit Adams observed, his earlier criticism replaced by admiration for persistence that had proven his assumptions wrong, while demonstrating that Marine Corps standards could be met through determination and proper technique, even when initial attempts suggested impossible obstacles. The water obstacle tested balance and coordination as Vasquez waded through chest-deep water while maintaining log position above surface, her shorter stature creating additional challenge that required tactical adaptation and sustained effort that exceeded physical demands of the obstacle when attempted by taller, stronger candidates. Her progress remained steady, technique compensating for physical limitations while mental determination overcame fatigue and discomfort that would have justified surrender. Her focus maintained on completing evolution that would honor her father's memory while securing family's future through successful completion of Marine Corps recruit training. The climbing wall presented final major obstacle, requiring Vasquez to navigate vertical surface while carrying log that affected balance and climbing technique. Her construction experience again providing relevant knowledge for working at height while managing heavy equipment that required coordination and sustained effort. She completed the climb with methodical precision, each handhold and foothold carefully selected for stability and efficiency, her approach demonstrating tactical thinking that maximized safety while ensuring progress toward completion of evolution that had seemed impossible when attempted through conventional approaches that relied primarily on strength. The final stretch required sustained carrying across open terrain toward finish line that represented successful completion of evolution and proof that determination could overcome apparent limitations when applied with intelligence, proper technique, and refusal to accept defeat that would disappoint those who depended on success. Vasquez crossed the finish line after 47 minutes of sustained effort, completing log carry evolution alone that had been designed for crews of 8 recruits. Her achievement demonstrating that Marine Corps standards could be met through persistence and tactical adaptation even when physical advantages seemed essential for success. The silence that followed her completion lasted several seconds, as recruits and instructors processed achievement that challenged assumptions about physical requirements and individual capabilities, while recognizing demonstration of character that exceeded normal expectations for recruit training and military service dedication. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez approached Vasquez with professional respect earned through performance that had proven wrong his initial assessment of her potential. Understanding that her completion of solo log carry represented achievement that would be remembered throughout Marine Corps career as example of determination overcoming obstacles. Outstanding performance, Private First Class Vasquez. Your completion of this evolution demonstrates that Marine Corps standards can be achieved through determination and proper technique when physical limitations are overcome through intelligence, persistence, and tactical adaptation to challenging circumstances. The recognition ceremony that followed became teaching moment for entire platoon, demonstrating how persistence could overcome apparent limitations while proving that Marine Corps training identified character rather than just physical capabilities, with Vasquez's achievement inspiring other recruits who faced their own challenges and obstacles. Drill Instructor Wilson, whose initial skepticism had been replaced by professional admiration for achievement that exceeded expectations, used Vasquez's performance as example of Marine Corps values and determination that characterized successful military service and combat effectiveness under adverse conditions. Private First Class Vasquez has demonstrated exactly what it means to be a Marine. When faced with impossible challenge, she refused to quit and found way to succeed through determination, technique, and character that will serve her well during combat operations where persistence means survival for herself and her unit. The leadership position that Vasquez earned through her achievement enabled her to help other struggling recruits overcome their obstacles, while sharing techniques and mental approaches that could multiply apparent capabilities when applied with intelligence and determination that characterize successful Marine Corps service. Her example reminded everyone that Marine Corps training tested character as much as physical capability, and that sometimes the recruits who struggled most during initial phases became the Marines who performed best when missions required persistence and determination rather than just strength and natural athletic ability. The construction experience that had prepared her for heavy lifting also provided valuable skills for combat engineering operations, leading to military occupational specialty assignment that utilized her background while enabling her to serve in roles that maximized her unique capabilities and experience with manual labor and technical problem-solving. Years later, when Sergeant Vasquez led combat engineering missions that saved Marine lives during deployment operations, her recruit training story continued inspiring military personnel who understood that true Marine strength emerged from character rather than physical advantages or natural athletic ability. Her log carry achievement became legend that reminded everyone that in Marine Corps service, as in all military operations, the most important capabilities often belong to those whose determination exceeded their apparent limitations, and that sometimes the Marines who seemed least likely to succeed became those whose persistence made the greatest difference. The moment when she lifted that log alone had lasted only seconds, but its impact continued for decades, demonstrating that impossible challenges became possible when approached with tactical intelligence, sustained determination, and refusal to accept defeat when others depended on your success and family honor required completion of missions that seemed beyond individual capability. The recruits who had mocked her earlier found themselves requesting her assistance with their own challenges, recognizing that her techniques and mental approach could help them overcome obstacles that seemed impossible when attempted through conventional methods that relied primarily on physical strength or natural advantages. Food service operations that had initially seemed like punishment assignment became opportunity for Vasquez to demonstrate that every aspect of Marine Corps service contributed to unit effectiveness, while her construction skills proved valuable for base maintenance and improvement projects that enhanced training facilities and operational capabilities. Her family's financial security was ensured through Marine Corps benefits that enabled her siblings to pursue educational opportunities that broke generational cycle of poverty, while her service provided example of military dedication that inspired others in her community to consider service that could transform their lives and family circumstances. This story was brought to you by Silent Salute. Before we leave you today, here's our question. Have you ever witnessed someone accomplish something that seemed impossible through pure determination and refusal to quit? Have you seen moments when proper technique and mental toughness overcame physical limitations that appeared insurmountable? Tell us in the comments about times when persistence conquered apparent limitations and proved that determination can multiply capabilities beyond what seems possible. And if you believe that true strength comes from character rather than physical advantages, hit that subscribe button to support our channel's mission of honoring those whose determination proves that impossible challenges become possible when approached with intelligence, technique, and absolute refusal to surrender. Nobody mocks Vasquez anymore, not after watching her prove that the weight that crushed an entire crew could be carried alone when determination refused to accept defeat and proper technique multiplied apparent capabilities beyond all expectations and assumptions about individual limitations.